Hello, I'm Toycat, and I don't want to show you an Elon Musk tweet. I don't think that these should be considered news, but it's really important for the sake of this video, and so let me show you something that was tweeted about Elon Musk. It was a quote saying, "The EU should be abolished, and sovereignty should be returned to the individual countries so their governments can better represent their people." And Elon Musk responded to this by saying, "I mean it, not kidding." And this is a funny thing that's been memed in a few places, but the r/Europe thread discussing this has the top comment saying, "The USA should be abolished and sovereignty returned to the individual states so that the government can better represent their people." And just to be clear here, 1111, when they say this, they are serious. They mean it. And it's funny because literally yesterday I was talking about in my video how, yeah, actually, Missouri and Illinois do have serious disagreements about how each other run their states and how they would want to run the country, but most Americans, a shocking number of them, still agree that the United States of America is worth keeping in some form, even though the people from Nebraska or Wyoming hate the fact that the people on the coast keep wanting them to be involved in wars in Syria, Ukraine, or Venezuela. They still agree to run this big union, and the interesting thing about the EU is because it is being formed right now, it is a very, the same people who can be very pro-America, and especially make a lot of money from America, might be very anti-EU, if only because it's a big competition point going down a very different pathway. Anyway, interesting things here, but the reason I want to bring this up is because I saw a comment, and because this is r/Europe, I figured there'd be some really interesting discussion, so I read through this, and there was actually someone who said the UK, so the Americans, a lot of unironically believe this, they think each state would be just as well off, if not better, if they weren't part of one of the largest economies in the world. The UK thought that was a good idea. Also, 8 years of stagnation with a major impending downsizing exercise, that's what happens when you unglue the foundations. This was a comment that really made me realize, like, some people do just believe the world by vibes. They have a vibe that at some point Brexit went badly for the UK, and that, they've been doing really poorly, and they're about to downsize their economy massively. And I just, my instinct was to be like, oh yeah, did you know this isn't right? Like, if we look at, like, the literal data, comparing pre-pandemic UK, which was while we were in the EU, to post-pandemic UK, the UK is up 5.3% compared to 0.1% for Germany. France is very slightly above that, and the Eurozone, which includes a lot of Eastern European fast-growing countries, is above that. And thankfully, Italy's doing pretty well, but the real sign of post-pandemic you can see right here is the fact that the North America is just zooming past Europe. This is the real reason that the USA versus Europe thing comes up. This is the real reason that the NATO USA versus Europe and Canada thing comes up. This is the real reason that the America going down their isolationist path is being a big discussion, is because while America has recovered from the financial crisis and is growing at least fine paces for the 1990s, the rest of Europe is staggeringly slow. This is something that over time the UK is now starting to improve at. I can't tell you, economies are super complicated things, and I can't point to a single policy for why, but the UK is starting to outgrow the rest of the European Union. But the important thing here is that, weirdly, even though the UK probably would have, according to most economists, grown faster in the EU, we grew at about the same rate as them over the last 5 years during our leaving, and we're predicted to grow slightly faster than them as we have left. This is something that is, again, there's a lot of data that backs this up. Everything that has gone bad is down to, like, vibes and feelings and lack of investment, and the actual economic data is showing that we are doing way worse than the US and Canada. We're doing way worse than a lot of G7 nations, or we were doing worse than a few G7 nations previously, but we are doing better into the future. And so I wanted to correct this comment, right? I wanted to correct this comment. I saw what you saw, and I was like, oh, just so you know, because this person hasn't, like, interacted with the real world, I was like, oh yeah, the UK is actually growing just as fast as its Western EU peers, and that actually the only real damage is, sadly, that we haven't seen that same predicted growth as those peers, and also we're growing less fast than the US. Sorry to correct this though, because I think it hurts when someone says, like, oh yeah, that thing you publicly commented was wrong. But what's fascinating is the comments in response to this, right? Instead of people being like, oh no, you're wrong, I disagree with you, I have some information to the contrary, or even just saying, like, you are wrong, if you look at these, you can see, like, great brick crossplay, but the apology kind of breaks the illusion. And I was like, so do they think I'm American? Is this a joke about that? Like, why do they think that I am cosplaying as a British? And also, why would the apology break the illusion? We're famous for apologizing. I bumped into a pole the other day on the tube and I apologized. Like, I know Canadians are a bit more famous for apologizing, but, like, is that something we don't do in the UK? Is that like anyway, but the comment here really blew my mind, because someone thought I was a Brexit truther, and the next person says, "Don't think that comment came from Britain, comrade." And 8 people upvoted. This is again, I want to share this. I have no hurt feelings about commenting on the internet. I don't think it's a good idea to do in most settings, but I decided to do it in this case anyway. I don't have any hurt feelings about that. But what I do find fascinating is that just immediately a lot of people are like, yes, this guy is a Russian agent. But what's crazy is I'm going to assume that no one knows who I am, because let's be honest, I have Z-list level celebrity status, right? I have 200,000 subscribers or something here. It's like I don't expect anyone to know who I am, but I do expect that if you want to call someone a Russian bot, a comrade, someone who is not British, I feel like you should go. I feel like you should go a little bit deeper into this. So if you aren't familiar, there is a concept of. They are called Russian web brigades, the Russian trolls, Russian bots, or Kremlin trolls, and it is a very real thing. A substantial part of the Russian foreign information budget is spent going onto the internet and sharing things that sow disillusion. There's lots of examples you can point to, but the biggest one is obviously the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But they also like to influence, issues all around the world, which is, very fun. But basically, they like to push they want to make sure that Russia's enemies are fighting within and are weakened. Also, I need to back up my computer. Anyway, they want to make sure that Russia's enemies are fighting within themselves, and this is exactly what is this is their goal. But what I find interesting is that because the idea of Russian web brigades are so widely shared, a lot of people just instinctively assume, oh yeah, here's a really weird opinion that contradicts my worldview. It's a Russian bot. That's what it is. It's the same way, have you ever heard the "you sound like ChatGPT" thing? AI is not just impacting how much people want to write, it's impacting how we interact with anyone else. If you see someone that says something that you really don't agree with, or they write a bunch about a subject, and it just feels off, if someone makes a bunch of obvious errors in a statement, you're like, oh yeah, you sound like ChatGPT. If someone makes a bunch of obvious errors in a statement, and these statements are politically sensitive, then they are a Russian web brigade. If they sound like both together, well then obviously it's a Russian web brigade using ChatGPT. But this is a really dangerous thing. And I'm only using this as an example of I hope that you all know that I am not a Russian web brigade. I hope you know that I am. I hope that you can believe that this is true, because otherwise the rest of this point makes no sense. And but the thing is people don't even put work into verifying it, because you could check my page and see I comment about very normal things most of the time, or I post my videos. That's what I'm mostly actually doing. You could very easily verify that even outside of what I post, it's oh, this account has been around for how long, right? Probably a year if I'm Russian. It's 13 years. It's so easy to confirm. Again, for most people, maybe not. For Alert Pen, I have no idea what they post or how often. But for it's so easy to find out that this isn't a Russian comment, and that this is, if you believe I am massively wrong, a just wildly misinformed British person who's Brexit for the Brexits, we is winning, Europe is number 2, England is number 1. But that is something different to, yes, I will sow the disillusion across the West. And so I want to give a lesson that I think I've been learning from the internet recently, which is, if you are too quick to just assume that people who disagree with you are Russian trolls or are ChatGPT, then you will stunt your own growth as a person, and you'll do so very smugly. I think that this is a really tricky problem to solve, though, because if we do the opposite and we open ourselves up to any opinion on any side of the aisle, I really wanted to find someone who was like, oh yeah, here's actually, here's someone that thinks that Brexit, here is the evidence that Brexit has done so much damage, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't see that because I was blinded to my biases, but no one posted this, they just called me a Russian. I tried looking around, I tried to find anything else about it, and it's a really interesting subject that I didn't get anything from, because people shut it down and went, oh yeah, stupid Russians coming out here saying Brexit wasn't a disaster like we like to believe. It's a really interesting problem, and I think that the real issue is that if you open yourself up to anything, then you will eventually encounter a Russian web. There are a lot of people who are believing some pretty dangerous things because of this. This is why this works. There's a lot of people who are reading real deep pieces of work that are hollow because they're made by AI. And so, what is the solution? I would say the solution is that the modern internet, where Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or maybe not Instagram, but Reddit, Twitter, Facebook at least, are all in the same rabbit hole of just connecting you with people who are absolute strangers and that you don't expect not to be strangers. I don't know if Scary Research 1021 is a real person. I don't know. I'll just use the rest of this Reddit for the same thing. I don't know if any of these people are posting real things, or if any of the top comments are coming from genuine actors, or are coming from people who are trying to politically influence me. Oh yeah, I think that X should be. If they cancelled the EU's, ad account, maybe we should have advertising and publishing platforms in solidarity. Are they trying to move me to the left by using an issue that feels very, I want to be against Elon, because it's a tricky thing, right? It's one of the hardest parts about this, and it's the reason why I think that we probably need to, in the age of AI, go away from the concept of the vapid, endless stream of things that come from people you don't know that validate what you already think. I think that we might move into a world where, yeah, you follow accounts and people that you know, or you go into communities where you know that everyone there is known by someone. Because, I'll be honest, this is a very, let's take a very neutral post that I can't imagine a political bias for. Maybe Padumtus is actually trying to advance Finland's goals on the internet. I don't know if he's a real person. I don't know if he contributes normally and this is just a cool thing. This is a problem with every subreddit, not just r/Europe or r/United Kingdom or r/MapPorn or r/World News. Let's see what's happening in the world these days. I think that the reason he wants the EU to be abolished is because of the $140 million fine, or is this someone recontextualizing so that I just think Elon Musk is only wants it to be abolished because of the fine? Maybe he just has enough money, because he has enough money that that's not a big deal, right? But maybe he just has enough money that he actually thinks that, yeah, I think that getting rid of a bunch of countries is a bad thing. I think that all these countries losing sovereignty is bad. I don't know, and I think that to know immediately gives a lot of powers to strangers who can be nefarious and can even be not human. I think that is the actual response to the age of AI, and yeah. Anyway, this is a fun little second channel video. I just wanted to make it because it's something that got on my nerves. Because wow, I can't believe I got downvoted on Reddit for being a Russian today. But what I will have to say is, praise Putin, fellas. Comrades, we will rise again. But no, I do want to point out one last thing, which is, what is the value of... I've got to go real soon. The F1 race is about to start. I've got one last thing I really want to raise, which is, if you've ever heard of the Stalinist purges, the censorship of images in the Soviet Union, then you might have, thought, oh yeah, Stalin tried to delete people. This is Nikolai Yezhov. As you can see, here he is, and then after he got purged from the party, the photo got doctored to look like this. This is the classic image that shows oh yeah, Stalin was a pretty great... Stalin just decided to change history, huh? But a lot of people assume oh yeah, they were trying to change the way the public saw events to get rid of key figures. But no, what this was, by circulating this image, what the USSR was proving was, yeah, we can change history and you can't trust anything you see, because just because there's a photo, it doesn't mean it's real. This photo could be real, or it could be after we've removed someone. It could be that Stalin decides to remove more people from that in the future. Just because you have a photo, or making you not trust events is how you make people trust there are all sorts of dangerous governments and things out there. And I think that this is a danger because, yeah, I do think that now we are in a world where it is broadly unsuitable for algorithms and for upvotes that can come from anyone to decide what it is that you get to read in your little 10-minute scroll of the internet. It is dangerous. But I don't actually have a real answer. I just have the fact that there's a problem. It's big, and, good luck. Second channel. Hope you all enjoyed. If you do believe that you should follow specific people and accounts and communities that you care about, then you can follow mine and give money over at Patreon, which I will use to make lazy videos like this one. Second channel. Don't care. Goodbye.